Hey, everybody. So, if you don't hear me, this would be a good time to say so. Since I'm traveling, I'm doing this on my laptop, and usually I don't. However, I'm just before I start talking, because I have a lot of stuff to tell you and relatively little time to tell you in. Do you all hear me, or am I just the talking spectre on the wall here? And I'm looking. I'm looking for a thumbs up. Still looking for a thumbs up, really. Yes, I am online and you can hear me. Can you hear me? All right, now I'll make sure. Like I said, since I usually don't do this on my laptop, I just want to make sure that the sound is okay because, as you can clearly tell, the camera is not as good here and there's very little lighting. I actually had to set up my own lighting in order to somewhat look slightly less like a specter sitting here. There's a delay. Is there a delay on the sound? You can hear me. Byberg, why do you have a delay? And the reason why it's slightly hard for me to read the comments is because I have to put up my light there. So when I read the comments, I'm staring at my own light. Sounds better than normal. All right, fine. All right. It is time to tell you guys some of the stuff that's going on. And so give me 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes to just get you caught up on what's going to happen in Lost Battlefields and where things are going before you actually ask me any questions, because I want to make sure I tell you guys what is going to happen. I have finally directed my accountant to set up the Lost Battlefields Inc. nonprofit. So Lost Battlefields will be a nonprofit organization with the sole purpose of documenting and videographing historical locations from all different types of history. Of course, I'm mostly focused on World War I and World War II, also because that's my main area or topic. However, the whole function of this being a nonprofit, we can take donations from companies that are tax writable and all those things that hopefully should open up the scale a little bit and should be able to maybe get some serious contributions. What I want to do with Lost Battlefields is what I always wanted to do, and now I sort of found out what it is that the world is missing. So many of these locations that I visit and people try to sneak into underground or castles or forts are many of them are very much off limits due to danger, due to governments. They're on military property. The government don't want to let them in. The military don't want to. There's a lot of different reasons, and we'll get into that in a little bit, why it's not just safe and easy to sneak into underground forts or above ground forts or bunkers and so on. And a lot of them are also memorials, and that comes with a whole bunch of new complex problems. So what I am going to try to do, and in return offer these organizations or governments for opening the doors, is one thing: we're going to videograph, we're going to film, and when I say we all know it's going to be me for a while. We're going to film all these different locations throughout Europe, throughout the world, obviously starting in Europe. We are going to aim for a LiDAR scan of all the tunnels and all the forts, also both for structural and for documentation. And I'm going to do a virtual reality walkthrough of all of them. So you can literally buy a $50 headset and walk through the tunnels you can't go through yourself. That is the vision with Lost Battlefields. What we need to do desperately is document these locations, because they are disappearing, they're being destroyed, they're just naturally erosion, especially when we go back to World War I and before. And that is just the truth of it. So if we can document them digitally, technically, it'll be a benefit to those organizations and governments that owns them, because they can see them, they can see the structural integrity of them, and it'll be a benefit to you who can't travel, and even better to guys who really want to see them and walk through them in a safe way. That is what we're going to try to raise funds for, to do, of course, all of Kamlow's locations, all of the underground tunnels, the Maginot Line forts, Hitler's tunnels under Wolfschausen or Obersalzberg, all these different places that have historical interest, I would like to videograph. So I'm setting up Lost Battlefields as a nonprofit, and hopefully we'll be able to set up working relationships with the various governments and with the various charity organization, other charity organizations, and Gedenkstätte, memorials, because a lot of these places are memorials. And like I said, there's, besides safety and military and politics and memorial, there's a whole lot of different things that are making it not easy. But for the greater good, and this will never, and it will never be about glorification of any war, because believe it or not, war is not very glorious when you are losing your friends or your life or your limbs. But war is interesting, and war is one of the most interesting, fast-paced parts of history ever. Through war, more innovations, more history, more borders, the very best and the very worst of people comes out in military history and in the times of war. So the structures and the research that comes with that is something that everybody is interested in, as we indeed should be. And there is very few excuses that are good enough when you really nail them to the mast of why they won't let you in places. But safety and security is one of them. And hopefully with right equipment and with proper reasoning, we can offer all these memorial places, because the memorials, a lot of them, they want to be able to show inside the tunnels, inside the forts, what the prisoners were made to work and build, and what they died doing. The fear has always been for certain of the German locations that that they don't want anybody to come in because they don't want to glorify what happened, which is not at all what this is about. This is about documenting a physical location where things took place. And anybody, all of you guys and me and every kid who's self-aware, if you say underground, hidden, secret, everybody want to go. And there was a very bad accident out here in France where a couple of dudes fell down into one of the Maginot Line forts. I haven't showed you that episode yet. I weren't there. Where me and Ludo, we went there a few months before these guys fell down, and I think the both of them are going to be in a wheelchair forever. So they are dangerous locations, but it is in everybody's interest to be able to see them. And this is the way, I believe, to get around some of the issues of getting into them, because now we can make a virtual tour of these places. That's at least what I'm intending to do, by making virtual tours available, LiDAR scans available as we do them, as we raise funds to them. It's all going to start with crawling through them and showing what's there, and then documenting them. And then as there's money more becomes available, we're going to upgrade that. And by making that publicly available, hopefully that will also save people from crawling through these tunnels and getting hurt. And I think that is something more military historians around the world would be interested in doing. Because if you're doing research in Canada, it will be really cool for you to get onto a website where you can log in and walk through a tunnel that you're researching. Because this is about research, it's about history, it's about the very interest of what took place there. So that is the intention of Lost Battlefields. And it's something I wanted to do, but this is, I think, the way to do it. Because we always have, I went to Austria. Austria is complicated. Germany is complicated. France is complicated. I'll give you an example of just exactly how hard it is to do what it is we're trying to do. And why it's no wonder that people are sneaking in under the wire, because it's impossible to get permission. They all want you to get permission, and they don't want to give it to you. For instance, I went to meet with the guys up at the west wall, at the Siegfried Line forts. And there's one of the large forts there that the Germans built in 1938. The plans and some of the construction was filmed by the French, who snuck over the border. They saw pictures of the Germans building all these secret line forts. And eventually, of course, World War II started, invasion of France, the forts were decommissioned, Allied landing, 1944, 1945, the forts fell. They were handed back to the French. They were handed back to the Americans. The Americans used a lot of them, the French, the Canadians, the NATO forces used them for 2, 3, 4 decades. They handed back to the French. They were given to the museums. Let's face it, these are not secret places. This is not a secret place. This is not, there's nothing in this that you can go visit it today. However, the French archives, who took the photos in 1938, has still deemed these photographs classified. How do you win with that? In Austria, I met some very great people who worked for. I went to Bergkristall. I saw what I was allowed to see, not what I wanted to see. And there's Kellerbau that I really wanted to see. And there are several reasons that I was given, and one that I was not given, and one that was hinted at. Why? Well, we can't just let anybody go in because we don't know. Again, we're back to the glorification. But the organization that oversees some 284 tunnels in Austria, and bunkers and forts and flak towers and so on, all these things, is a civilian organization that's hired by the government, which takes input from the various Holocaust memorials, which means there's 3 different entities you have to negotiate with in order to be allowed to see some of these locations, which gives every bit of reason and way and facilitate a no. It's just easier for everybody to say no. So hopefully by becoming a nonprofit, we can offer a lot of these museums, like the ME262 factory up in Thüringen, where they took off, the jets took off from the top. They would love to have a virtual scan of the whole tunnel system because it's too dangerous to go in there. So, of course, I volunteered. But by offering these people something they can use in their museum and the documentation, history, and research, hopefully we can get somewhere. Hopefully we can. What has surprised me is the outright, the amount of money spent by various governments destroying World War I, World War II forts, factories, tunnels, bunkers. The Germans have spent millions of destroying the secret line forts until they finally, through a lot of very hard work, a lot of dedicated historians, and we're also going to meet all of them, spend a lot of time getting them preserved. And I think, from what I understand, Quartz, the very large underground tunnel of Dr. Kamlas, is also now on the list of preserved places, so it can't be destroyed, and eventually going to try to figure out how to open it. So this is not just between you and me. There's a lot of people that are trying to preserve and save these places as best as they can. And despite that, you still have archives that will classify everything. It is very, very hard to find. Not to mention that there are thousands of boxes nobody went through. There's a lot of different layers, and the only way to get through all of these is by showing them all that we are doing this for the right reason, for the reason of history, of documenting the past for the future. Oh, damn, that's a good sentence. I got to remember that one. But we are trying to document the past for the future, because we, Lord knows, we are repeating the future with the past. All right, I've been driving all day. Sorry. And my drone's been malfunctioning, so I had to go back and do it again. Anyway, that is hopefully that'll get us somewhere, and hopefully that'll be able to get historians and grants interested in backing up our work. And this is hopefully eventually not just going to be me. Hopefully there's going to be more people. LiDAR, 3D scans, graphics, and so on, so we can make presentations. I'm also, when I get back, we're going to revamp my website for Lost Battlefields and actually categorize the different videos in the different countries, the different wars, and the different reasoning. So I spent a lot of time driving this time, and I spent a lot of time thinking and making some calls and figuring out this is the way forward. And this is all of us together, because it's not just about me with the camera, it's about everyone who goes through a location with a camera. Let's make a database that documents all these locations. And that's pretty much the announcement. So go home, spend some more money. I only got a few speeding tickets this time. And, well, you know how I drive. And we found some really, really interesting forts. There's some amazing, enormous things. And I actually found a fort. I didn't find it. Christopher showed me where it was. But it was not listed on Google. It's an old World War I fort that is enormous, with kilometers of underground tunnels, sitting under a forest, borderline military area up here in France, not far from Metz. And it was built just like Mutzig. And it's not on Google. It's not, you can't search it, you can't find it, there's no coordinate. So I actually dropped my first official Google pin, named a hidden location or forgotten location, and we'll see how long that's going to be. But that's what it's all about, finding locations and putting them on a map so other people can, well, it's surrounded by barbed wire and spiky things and holes in the ground. But anyway, you get what I'm saying. At least we can hopefully drop a lot of pins all over the world, finding these places, and so we can register where they are. And Austria was really, really interesting and very, very eye-opening. I didn't get to do much with the people from Mauthausen. Didn't really get to do tour the camp. I wanted to do one about why Mauthausen was the most profitable camp during the war for the SS. Didn't really work out the way I wanted it. Bergkristall was, I could see why it's an amazing system, but if I'm only allowed to see 1 or 2% of it, well, I can show you, and then you can extrapolate from the video that I took. Kellerbau, nobody really want to talk about, and it was very strange. And so this is a process that will take a lot of going back and forth, but that's not the interesting thing. The interesting thing is, and please give me a minute to finish my rant here before you ask questions, because I don't want to ignore you guys, because I want you to know what we're actually doing here and what I've been going on, and then I'll start reading, because I have a train of thought and I have a single track mind. Aha! Oh, dear God, thank God I'm doing this alone. I'll drive anybody crazy. Out in Austria, I found something. I don't know what it is, and I don't know what it does, and I don't know why it's there. It's a very large, very specific built room that was rebuilt and designed for some purpose in an underground tunnels that existed from way before the war, but research, factories. When we talk about Kamlas tunnels, yeah, there's some 20 or 30, depending on what we actually find out, that he moved underground of factories and research. But there were hundreds of factories and research institutes and things that moved into existing tunnels, old breweries, slaughterhouses, all underground in large, deep tunnels that has been built in either existing caves or around the turn of the century some of them are hundreds of years old. So it makes sense. The Germans made a lot of use of what was there, what they had, what existed underground. And one of these places I found out there, Siemens is involved. You all saw the picture I put up of Siemens. Well, they were doing something, and they built a very, very, very interesting structure underground. You know, the hair standing up at the back of your neck kind of thing. There's no sense in me describing it to you. We're trying to get a graphic together so I can do a video and we can all kind of pitch in, because I don't know. I also want to hear what Joseph have to say about this. However, The good thing about this is that particular location is a huge tunnel system. And there's a couple of private businesses in there now, like a shooting range, because apparently there's shooting ranges in all the underground tunnels, which is fine. It's run and operated by a private person. I don't have to go through the government. I don't have to go through the state or the city or any of these specific entities. I told him, we need to come back to Austria, to this place. There was a fire, but in every corner, there's bits and pieces from that Siemens factory besides its structure. There's stuff littering everywhere. And they used to cook bakelite. They made parts for V1 rockets, 2 rockets, and the jets. We know that. We know they made some part of electronics. But this structure doesn't make sense. It shouldn't. I don't see how this have anything to do with rocket parts production. So we're going to go back. And this is one of the, I sense the first Lost Battlefield nonprofit mission will be go to Austria, hire some people or get a couple of people, because we need to clean this up. We need to catalog all of these bits and pieces. There's a fire, so it's all covered in soot. There's beacons, electronics, bakelite cookers. There's a lot of different things, and of course, there's a hidden underground. Officially, there's no underground, but there are 2 spiral staircases going down. So yeah, right. And I see a lot of that. And so now we're wondering a little bit, well, what did the University of Vienna, was there research? And then there's another tunnel system where I went through in the mountains, where the University of Graz was involved in nuclear and anti-gravital research. Yes, anti-gravity and nuclear was researched by these people in these tunnels. So now I've got to find out with them what they're doing. Documented the whole thing. Nothing left from that time in there. But now you're looking at a bigger technological picture of every university in these major cities, on these major countries, were involved in research for the war effort. Incidentally, a lot of this research continued after the war. So we're not just looking at Kamlo and Deepna and the people whose names we know. We're looking at individual physics labs. And I'm wondering if we're not going to find some more reactors and some more I don't know what we're going to find. I'm finding things that I don't know what is. And I believe we also found a bit of a skeleton. But, well, we'll get back to that. There are hidden places out there. Really, truly, actually places that nobody knew. And as you may know, there's a new tunnel system was found in Poland a couple of months ago by Polish explorers that opened up a new tunnel system that had been sealed ever since 1945. Nobody had been in there, full of booby traps, full of strange things. The Polish military had to come in and clear it for mines, and they don't sure if it's Hankes papers, SS papers, whatever's in there. They haven't gone all the way in yet because, of course, now they ran out of money and they needed to be done right. And if you do it right and you do it with the government, you need to get the military in, and it takes time and money to do these things, and absolutely does. And I get it. And for that reason, a lot of us just literally simply sneak in the middle of the night, because some of these places you'll never be allowed to get into. I couldn't get into the Flak Tower in Vienna because they said it was structurally unsound. This Flak Tower will still be there, or they will all still be there when all of us are dead and gone. But from a technical engineering standpoint, it is probably not as structurally sound as once it was. And I understand that. But if you have some sort of smarts, you're not going to fall through any of the cracks. It was never bombed, and there's no destruction in it. Of course, it would be safe for me or some of us to go through. Absolutely, and we'll find a way. But in Austria, I will say, you feel very confined by rules, regulations, red tape. Politics. There's a lot of different Oh, did you talk to him? Then we won't talk to you. Oh, you didn't talk to him, but you have to talk to him, but you can't talk to them. It's, and I really don't care about their politics. This is not what any of this is about, but it makes it it is a very narrow path to sort of weave your way through out there. It truly is. And we're working on it. And some of this is going to take a lot more time than I thought. Some of it I actually thought was going to be a little easier. And some of it now, I guess, I can't just go out and say, well, here is this. What is it? Because I don't know if that's going to make it disappear. Because there are entities that really love to show up and just fill up enormous tunnels with tens of thousands of tons of cement just so no one can get in there. And it is, at this point in time, it's outrageous that the destruction of these sites still go on. So if the government has fenced off the entrance, a lot of the damage in a lot of, for instance, the tunnels were because the Russians blew them up, and that makes them unstable. Later on, there was a lot of them has been further destroyed in order to try to seal entrances, so on, and that made even more unstable. If everybody just left them alone and sealed the gate, then it would have been a lot safer for everyone. But here we are, and the interesting thing about what I found in Austria is that I can actually get into a place where there's still remnants of World War II. There were soldiers' harnesses, there were cartridge belts, there were shoes, there were pieces of wallets, gas masks, gauze from wounded. There are still things to be found that you can actually walk into little time capsules, which is one reason why coming up and going forward, I'm not going to just disclose all of the locations, because some of them we really don't want, not you guys, but there might be other people that come and watch this and go, oh, there's a Stahlhelm sitting in this capsule. I'm going to go ahead and take it because and that's the problem we're having. That brings me to the last thing I wanted to talk to you about before I start reading your questions, is with the historians around the world, is we really, really, really need to start working together, because what we're up against is, first of all, in general, there's I approach history with the eternal, all parts of history. I approach it with a question mark. Is that really true? Did that really happen? Is that really how it went down? Because that'll open my mind to looking at a site in a different way than just a given narrative. If it's a battle, even a battle, anything, research, whatever, look at it, approach it with skepticism from everything you've been told about it, and maybe you'll see something new. That's just my approach to things. And there's a lot of information that individual historians are sitting on all over the world that they will not share. And everybody's waiting for, oh, we're going to write a book about it, so I'm not going to share it. Things disappear from archives all the time because friends of friends, and somebody got a map, got a thing, and they won't share it. I know museums who can't get the drawings, the designs, original wartime photos of their museum because a private guy has it, but he won't share it because it's his, because maybe he's going to write a book or something. It reminds me of how many of us don't have an old uncle who's got 16 different parts of cars and Harleys and motorcycles in his backyard, that he's, one day, this project, I'm going to put it together. In the meantime, he's dying of old age and all the stuff is rusting. This is where history, it sits around in personal files and nobody sees it and nobody shares it. So this is my plea to historians out there, whether they're famous authors or they're on TV or they're on YouTube, whatever you find, let's try to find a database that if you're going to write a book about it, then write the damn book and get the credit you want for what you have, but then start sharing so we can all start getting together and communicating with what we find. I see something, you may know what this is, but if I don't tell you, then you don't know that it's there. You have maps, you have LiDAR, you found something there. We need to start actually putting a database together of just artifacts that was found You find a helmet, you find a dog tag, you find a piece of uranium. Log what, where, why, how. We need to put a website together and just, I found this. There's cross-reference. Somebody's walking on the hillside on the other side with the helmet or something else from this. And somewhere there's a relative that doesn't know that his great uncle or great grandfather or grandfather his body been found because the dog tags are sitting in somebody's private home. And when it comes to bigger things, it's hard enough to try to pry things out of archives. It's not even because they're trying to keep this secret from us. They just don't have the resources of the time to go through all the thousands of boxes they harvested during the war and try to declassify them. So we have, again, that's why I'm starting the nonprofit. Let's try to get money together for independent researchers to start doing this. Somebody that the government will want to work with. Nothing is easy, but we have to work together. We cannot keep working apart and against each other. It's bad enough that, hey, we live in a world where either you're this or you're that, or either you believe in this or you're that. Even you voted for him or you voted for them. And we just can't talk if we don't have exactly the same page. And in history, we cannot have these ridiculous arguments about, no, he was the general. No, he was not the general. He did it. She did. It doesn't matter. Let's have the conversation. We need to be better than the rest of the media world that doesn't want to have conversations. We as historians need to bring forth what was, and we really do. Thank you. Thank you very much. We need to. We need to be the ones who goes back and say, all right, here's the historical relevance. I don't know if you all know about the extinction of the Ukrainian peasants in 1932, 33, where Stalin practically starved. Not practically, he actually enabled policies in Ukraine that starved a third of the country's farmers to death. A third of the Ukrainian public died. They starved to death. He took he kept wanting more. Of course, he didn't like the Ukraine, so he wanted to get rid of them. Many of them were deported to places where they didn't have any means of sustaining themselves. Then he took away, collectivized all the farms, so all the farmers were put in these huge collectives, or the farmers were outright killed or moved somewhere else. And the people who were running these farms didn't know anything about farming and not enough. So there was a huge famine and people starved to death. Then you had the secret police coming in looking for, making everybody paranoid by telling, well, we need all the seed grain. We need the grain. We need the grain from everybody. You're not paying your share. While the young generation are sitting in the Stalin communist schools being taught the socialist dogma, being taught that their parents and grandparents are stealing from the state and the state is number one. Now we move on to 32 and 33, where now the commissars wanted more grain. If they didn't have the grain they had to give in, they had to give their seed grain. And if you know anything about farming, if you take the seed grain, that is what you need to sow next year. If you don't have any seed grain, you will not sow, you will not eat. Then it's perfect. That's exactly how you exterminate the population. You take away their means of creating food for the future generations. You're looking at right now, you can extrapolate that to what's going on today. Why is the production chain slowing down? Why are we producing less? Why can't we have it delivered? You slowly starve the way of bringing goods and food and things to market. It's a different ideology, but we need to learn something about if you take away the means and the food from people, as they did in the 30s in Ukraine, well, then we need to start figuring out how do we avoid starving to death in a couple of years. There are lessons to be learned in history, and we as the independent historians who don't owe anybody anything, well, I owe all you guys, but we're not beholden to an ideology, to a university, to a publishing house. We're not. We are just beholden to history. And that is the only real truth we have to pursue. And I have no problem being wrong or making mistakes because I learned something. Much rather go out on a limb and be wrong than playing it safe and following what everyone else has said and done. And I think what you see is in World War II history, well, World War One history, there are documents from World War One that are still classified, and you ask me why. Problem we have in history is you started with a narrative that had just been written the same. He wrote a book, then I wrote a book about what he wrote, and then this guy wrote a book about what I wrote, and then somebody else wrote. Everybody's writing the same narrative with a slightly different spin. Nobody approaches the topics with an open mind that maybe the foundation of certain claims made during the war was wrong. That brings me to, I guess, an apology. I never watch what I say or do because I really don't want to look at me. But I said something in a live stream a couple of times before, and one of you guys sent me an email saying that what were you saying? And I was talking about a German study that cited the majority of the deaths of forced laborers occurred back in the camp under the control of the capos that oversaw the camps, not in the transportation to and from work, not at the work sites, but back at where they lived in the camp where they were housed. That's where the majority of the deaths apparently were amongst the forced laborers at the hands of the capos. And for some reason, I'm not sure how I phrased it because, frankly, I don't remember. But the way I had phrased it sounded like there was all the capos were Jews and the Jews were killing themselves, and that's not what I intended to say. I'm not entirely sure what I said or how I phrased it. But the capos were the overseers of the camp. Remember, most of the camps, and I was citing a German study, by the way, that was focused on specifically a few of the Kammler work sites. Not that he was specifically mentioned in this. Most of these camps, of the labor camps, of the concentration camps, were run by relatively few people because the camp prisoners, few of them, the capos oversaw and controlled the majority of the inmates. Some of them were drawn from the Jewish population. Some of them were, and initially, most of them were drawn from the population of professional criminals that had been arrested for professional criminals, because apparently they made good camp guards. But it was a mix of everything. I will actually like to get the author on that study to come on have chat, because it was interesting. It was an interesting study, and he's a German author. It was a completely different look at camp life and how people died or were killed than I'd seen before. So I thought that was interesting. Anyway, so just wanted to clarify that it was not really a specific statement on one or the other. Anyway, all right, now get back to you guys. I need to say thank you to a couple of people. Craig, thank you. Dennis, thank you. He bought a super sticker. I didn't know I could do that. All right, now I'm in Calais. I'm going to Le Bloc House tomorrow, and I was battling the drone from hell, which is apparently my drone. Weirdest thing, I was trying to film Le Capole because I didn't. It was raining and stormy when I was there last time, so I couldn't. And I flew over it 10 times today, and it didn't record. I got one. It wouldn't record. I don't know what happened to the footage. I have no idea why it misfunctioned. I don't know if there's a electric fence around it, or it's just because the damn thing is old and it's time for it to retire. There's a few holes in that drone. And I did get the new gimbal for my for the camera from all your donations. It's heavy as hell, and I can't put lights on it because then the camera becomes unstable. But I shot a few things, and I went through a really interesting fort a couple of days ago, and I'm going to put that video up because, I want to show you guys some stuff. But I have literally had, as usual, this has been the driving nightmare from hell. As it always is. Like I said, I need a driver. Okay. Let me get some questions here. Because at some point in time I have to eat breakfast before the restaurant closes. Impression the pressure is being brought to bear by the U.S. government to say Poland, Austria. I will not rule that out, William. I really will not, because I won't rule it out, but also they are doing a bang-up job doing it on their own. They don't seem to need a whole lot of encouragement from anyone to do that. No, there's no warning. The drone would fly. It was fine. It filmed according. It just didn't save the footage. Like I said, I got one good clean flyover that worked. I copied and doubled that footage on 3 computers to make sure that one flyover stuck. It could also be a drone malfunction. I don't know. We'll find out. My equipment's getting old. My other camera is dying. That's why I can't. That started going weird on me. Never ready batteries. That was not that. That's the drone. It has to fly whatever it comes with. No, I'm in the smallest motel room I ever been in. This was sort of a last minute. I could come down to down here by Calais and film. And honestly, I don't travel for any kind of luxury. I travel to get things done. Memory card could be. It could be that too. I'm gonna try to figure that out tomorrow. I filmed some sections, the landing part, the taking off part, and then all the stuff in the middle didn't. Well, I am right under the roof of this very cute little French restaurant and hotel. Okay, I have a reservation because it's Saturday, I think. So no, I'm in Calais. I'm like I said, today I went to La Coupole and I went to the V3 site. I had to go up on top of the mountain because I had to go see where they fired the Riesling shells, or we were going to. That was a hell of a thing. I'm probably going to try doing that tomorrow. We shall see. And then I'm doing an interview with the Blockhouse, where they had the initial V2 rocket test site, and I'm going to Verdun. And I think on Monday evening, Monday around this time, I'm going to do a live Q&A with Cook Rogers, who is a British historian. He wrote a book about the first torpedo and the experimental British submarine. You see him in my in the video, the last Great Fort video. He's a really cool guy and a really good storyteller. And we're going to have a live talk about World War I and what happened in Verdun. And he's going to share some of the stories because he's really good at that. And you guys can ask all the questions you want about that, because he's just a great guy, great author too. So just letting you know that. All right. It is, like I said, the smallest hotel room. They lost my reservation, so they gave me whatever they had. I'm like, I don't care, as long as I get something to eat at some point in time before I starve to death. Guys in Europe, what did I miss? I'm sure I missed something. See him in back. The Glocke Hitler Center Gravity Machine on YouTube by Mark Felton. No, actually, I don't think. No, I don't think they did, because they did. Some of them would have gotten away, and they would show up now, or they would have gone back. They would have done all the things you want to do in if you actually can do time travel. But it's not a silly question, because from what I understand, the way this thing worked, and even Einstein has it, there were ways of warping time-space continuum somehow that I remember. I'm not a scientist. So to some small scale, from what I understand, the Finnish experiment that was similar to the Bell experiment had a very slight anti-gravity effect 0.02 very small percentage, but it was leaning in that direction. So it's not impossible that they found a way to bend on gravity, and if you start working on that, you may have other things. What did you say? Expensive suggestion about putting fluorescent green. Yes, I did. That we will get back to. Also depending how well, it's got to be illegal. Diving's got to be legal, because that's nothing you want to fuck with. But yes, I did see that. That's a good point. I mean, now I'm looking. Oh, by the way, now I'm looking at what Siemens is doing. That's why I ended up in that whole finding that structure that I don't know what is and what does in the Siemens factory. We're looking at Siemens and we're looking at AEG, and they may not want to share what they've been doing, but now we need to find out. AEG also had a room up in the flak tower. One of them were allocated to military and industry. Things are. It's not. I'm working on the companies that could have built these things, because we need to work our way backwards and say, well, we had code names on certain things. So the Glocke, well, that's kind of what we all came up with the name of after Igor's book, and that's what he called it. But what that technology encompasses could be a lot of different things. It could have branched off in a lot of different directions, where the bell, or we call it the bell because it had the shape of the bell. It was a piece of technology that had that shape, and that's why it always been referred to as that. We don't know what it we don't really know what it did, or what it could have done, or what it will expect it to do. But we can follow the technological development through these companies if they would let us. But we'll work on that. Yes, he has. You're absolutely correct, and that's more a question for him. Would he say yes or no to that question? I don't know. Well, I will ask him when I come back. Sorry. Really, I spoke with Harry before I left. If anybody had come up with any new information on the bell other than Igor's book, which pretty much is, well, that's pretty much the information that's out there. If there's anything new since that, we don't know. I haven't seen anything actually new except people talking about what they already have been told. I think it's more interesting to pursue the companies and see what technology they did right after the war, and maybe work our way backwards, because again, we're looking at a lot of documents and a lot of archives that come to strange places. Oh yeah, and there's all the whatever IG Farben was broken up into. Well, all of those entities still exist today. And like I said, most of the companies then, they still exist today in a different format, on a different name. Which, I mean, they also existed way before the war. They also existed before World War I and after World War I. So, yes, a lot of things ended up in different lakes. Absolutely, a lot of them are also incredibly stupidly deep, which is not helping. I'm thinking, if they ever wanted to have a chance of retrieving it, they wouldn't have dumped it in the lake they couldn't get it out of. I think that there are things to be found in caves and tunnels, and that's why the fact that they found a new large tunnel system in Poland, one that hadn't been heard of, that is interesting, because it kind of gives us all a little bit of hope that there's still a lot more out there. And what I found was something in plain sight. The thing I found up in Austria, the structure we don't know what is. It's Oh, my backlight's disappearing. I don't know what it is, but it was sitting in the middle of a place where everybody come in and out. They even filmed the movie there, and nobody really stopped to take a look at this thing and go, what the hell is this? So a lot of things are not as far away from us as we think. We just maybe need to look at it slightly different. Give you an example. The production, the actual design drawings of Fortress Ibn Emal, they found them in the Russian archives. How? Because the Germans, when they invaded France, Holland, and Belgium in 1940, of course, they took over the country, took all the drawings back to Berlin. And when the Russians invaded Berlin, they took all the documentations and all this back to Moscow. So that's where the Ibn Mal Museum found their original blueprints. And probably no one really thought much of it. So you never know where we're going to find these things. Thank you. Thanks much. And then I'm saying it. And then there's all the historians that are sitting on stuff they don't want to share because, yeah, we're not going to get rich doing this, guys. So if you're going to write a book about it, write it and then share. Yes, the gold train. Actually, that is interesting because I met with Crystal Falcon. And she told me there's an interesting nuance to looking for a gold train. If something was stuck in the ground during World War II and is dug up today and is full of valuables, well, that doesn't belong to Poland. It belongs to one of the winning powers, Russia, America, Britain, or France, by I don't know whatever law that was. So that might make Poland less wanting to dig up a train full of gold that they can't get to keep anyway, which was one explanation of why things sometimes get slowed down. And I absolutely get that. And okay, what are we looking at? Is magnetic problem? Yes. Yes. And I think they, oh, hang on. Sorry. Getting a little ahead of myself here. Hang on, you guys, main questions. Let's go back to where I was. Yes, that I absolutely, maybe differently than what we would think, but I'm pretty sure especially after whatever they detonated in Jonastal, they were aware. And I think from what Hans Sinsa, the pilot, saw in 1944 as he flew over Wugan Island and something detonated that messed with the instruments, the Germans was aware and could try to weaponize that. What's happening the next? I don't know. I have not. I don't know. I'll ask him when I get back. Honestly, I don't watch the news because what good is it, really? Honestly, doing us, except making us all in a bad mood and confused, and we keep looking at whatever it is of misdirection we get from watching TV and news and constant blurbs from everything. So just stop following it, take a step backwards, and try to figure out what's actually going on. Venezuela stole everything. Tesla, yes. I don't know. They whacked him because the CIA, or was it the FBI, was certainly raided his files after he died, and the other files, of course, was in Europe. And that time, Czechoslovakia and the Eastern Europe was under German dominance, I believe, so they could just have walked in there and taken it. I need to look into Tesla more. But certainly there's a lot of his papers that are still classified, but that the FBI got. So something strange going on there. Will you travel to Telemark, Norway? Maybe. Not today, I will not. This time I will not make Norway because it is just going to be way too windy up there. Honestly, I won't be able to get good footage, and then I can't show you, and then what's the point? It's very interesting because when you look at Berchtesgaden and you look at the radio facilities in the tunnels, they're very limited. I'm thinking there must have been a larger radio bunker. And Berchtesgaden bothered me a little bit because there's really not much there. And I don't think there was much there back then either. There's all the above ground, there was the schools, there was his house, and then there was some of the tunnels, and the tunnels are pretty much still there, except you're of course not allowed to visit them. There's not as much in Berchtesgaden as I would have thought. If you look at something like Amt 800 in Jonastal, an enormous thousands of square meters of underground radio communication center, and there were a lot of them. I don't see anything like that in Berchtesgaden. So having a radio vehicles sending chatter was not unheard of, because it would draw the Allies to go there or to look there or draw their attention thinking Hitler was going there, while the actual Alpine redoubt is probably more in Thuringen. Because if you look at the region of Thuringen and all the military facilities that are there, and all the underground factories and the research, everything is in that area, not up in Berchtesgaden, which makes it slightly less interesting. But it could have been a good misdirect, because that's where. And then again, if the Allies actually thought he was there, they weren't in any rush going there either, which is a little strange, because it seemed that everybody, like in Jonastal, they thought that was a Führer headquarters, and yet they sat there for a week down in Woodruff and Amstadt without going into the actual tunnels. If they thought Hitler was there, wouldn't they hurry? Wouldn't that have made more sense? So I don't exactly know what it is they thought they were going to find, unless they knew exactly what they were going to find, and that's why they weren't in any hurry. Or it was, let's go so slow that some of the people can go out. Like there's some of the facilities where really high-end research was made that was well known, but it wasn't bombed. The ME-262 factory, Reimark, it was never bombed, and Lord knows it stuck out on an aerial photograph. But the Americans managed to get there and get enough stuff out before they had to hand over to the Russians to get 5 planes built. If they had bombed it, that probably wouldn't be possible. Just saying. What's the news? Smiling girl. Smiling girl. Smiling Jen. Lost Battlefields is turning into a non-profit to start documenting these sites, also virtual reality-like. Or Mellow Grows or Troll Druid. You're right. There was a lot more battery-operated vehicles and small trains and small things. The technology existed. Remember, World War I submarines was a real thing. So, okay, I'll tell you guys a story. I had a friend that worked at Ford 30 years ago, and he was telling me that for the F-150, for those of you who are not Americans, I think there was an F-100, started with the F-150 as a pickup truck. Back then, and this was 10 years ago, he told me, and he worked there some 20, 25 years before that. He said the F-150 in the early 60s had an engine that would go 50 miles a gallon, and they shelved it. And the F-150 that they're putting out today probably still only get 11, 12 gallons to the miles to the gallon. So hiding technology to make money on another end is not something I will put beyond any of the industry. Remember Eisenhower's warning about the military-industrial complex that is now currently in charge of today's world. So yeah, just a reminder of that. War and the world is about business, and it is about money, and it is really not about you and me. And I think we may as well just accept that until I don't know if we're ever going to get our freedom back. But anyway, there was no research stuff here. What did that mean? What did you say? Yes. Check concrete watchtower and Dortmund. Okay. Is that the first one, or is that the one that the first one ever? No, that's not that. Never mind. I thought about something else. After this, I don't know. I will be honest and tell you I do not know what of Tesla's papers they found. Are you talking about the FBI? Because I'm pretty sure that there's some of Tesla's inventions that went on into military research that he might not have wanted to deal with himself. He was, after all, slightly eccentric. So what we were told was there. What was found officially may not have been the interesting stuff. They would have. They did. If you talk about Berchtesgaden, they absolutely did. But if that's what we're talking about, we're all taking things out of context. They would have, and there was radio communications in the tunnels, but it wasn't big. It wasn't much. It was not at all what you would expect from a place where Hitler he could have run the war. I don't think it was ever intended, unless there's some other communication center off that site. It was never intended for Hitler to stay there and run the war from Berchtesgaden. Yes, they do. And fortunately, I do have a friend that works at Smithsonian that I'm going to go see. And hopefully, again, everything isn't in Washington. They're complicated and generally incredibly annoying. And for some reason in America, the people who live on the coasts, including my coast where I live, are a little strange. And Washington does not make it any easier. But that's also where the National Archives are. But yes, they do. That's why they didn't bump it. Yes, they knew exactly what they were looking for. I don't think there was any. You should see the information the British had on the submarine bunkers before they bombed them. That is what I heard. That is also what I heard. One of Trump's, his uncle knew stuff and was deeply involved in the FBI. That's why the thing that people always made fun of Trump for not knowing things. Believe me, he knows stuff. He's not an idiot. Yes, that is one of the plans. And now that you are late to the game, you didn't hear. But yes, everything is being revamped as Lost Battlefields is starting. I'm starting a nonprofit, Lost Battlefield, specifically to document all the different sites, also virtual reality walkthroughs, LiDARs, and cross-referencing on the website. And of course, there'll be a forum because now I can go spend my money on upgrading my website. Oh, actually, I do remember having somebody volunteer to do that. Now I'm just going to make sure he's going to regret doing that, having offered. Oh, damn it. I can't paste on this. I got to go back on my YouTube and I got to go to YouTube chat and paste that. No. The GU390? No, there's... Who did I talk to on that one? No, there's more that was the big planes that certainly could have reached America, but it's not. Let's backtrack. We were always told that the Germans didn't have a plane that could reach America, could reach New York. That's not true because they did overflights with the Condor, like extended fuel tanks, but they did overflights with the Condor that theoretically could have dropped a bomb, if that's where we're going to go with it. There was more Ju-390s that was produced than we've been told. And I remember speaking to somebody who knew the production engineers and said they ran quite a few. I think it was 11 off the assembly line, and there was more. Plus, we have that one. We have a few photos of the Ju. One of them that supposedly was a bomb run of a British ship in the Middle East, which I find very strange. Why would a big 3-engine plane try to strafe do a bomb run on a British transport ship? And that's where that photo supposedly come from. No, there was more of those, and there's more to that story than just that. And I can't remember where I talked about it, but it is coming. I am in Calais, by the way. Okay. Funny. Why does this always do this thing? All right, done. What's the missing part that we cannot see? That's the player between the one. That's the thing that we're not allowed to talk about. Well, you're saying now. Are you saying that legitimate governments ever got back the power? Um, uh, I'm saying that there's still a part of the aftermath of the way the world is run from World War II that is unknown to us today. And I'm not being conspiratorial. At least I hope I'm not. I think there's a remnants not of the Nazi ideology, but the way of doing things, the way of doing business. We're back to various intelligence services agendas and various big businesses agendas. And I think we need to realize that most of the people whose names we know as the politicians who run our world today are not really the ones who are running the world of the countries. And I'm not just saying that because I just look at Europe. Most of the laws and regulations that are confining you all right now living in Europe is unelected bureaucrats in Brussels who have very far removed from you and your issues. You don't know who they are, who's passing the laws. And if we looked at some of the corruption scandal coming out of Austria, where it was a British TV crew, they posed as a company and offered some of the, this happened to be an Austrian politician, money for changing a law or making a law. No problem, it's just a matter of price. So companies can now buy politicians to create laws they want, and that means we are not in charge. And if it's the companies and the intelligence service that are in bed with each other as well, I don't know if we ever got our world back in the way we had hoped for. But there's millions and millions of soldiers and civilians that died over the past couple of wars in order to protect the freedom that they never got, he said bitterly. So the missing part is the connection between intelligence services and big business and banks, to say so. All right, so, all right, still technology. Where do we go here? Thousand project. I have not heard of. Still not answered. Yeah. At least part of something is flying. Something is flying. I don't think the fuel was the issue. I mean, Germany ran out of resources and got bombed to crap towards the end of the war. There was not enough of anything. So what remains is all the research that was begun and existing, and where did it go, and did some of it continue? Oh, what a nice, good picture, Crystal. Yes, absolutely there. Yes. That reminds me of a fun story. You remember what I said about that strange tunnel I found in the outside of Graz, that Graz University was involved in, where they did anti-gravitational and some sort of nuclear research that I still need to look into more of. After the war, guess what? They started doing seismic research there. Remember where else they did seismic research after the war? Under the castle of Castle Fürstenstein. I don't know why all these strange places just start looking at seismic. Maybe that's interesting. Just a tid note. I haven't tied it together yet because I just figured it out a couple of days ago. Come on, yeah. Come on. I think I was talking about visiting that with damn, what's his name from Berlin Underwelt that I met with. I think we talked about going there next year. Now that we're getting to the cold and the weather, you know what? That's why I don't watch the news, because then I would be too. But yeah, I hear you. Oh, you're wrong. Peace doesn't sell, brother. Making war sells. That makes everybody money. Peace is just, I mean, what would we do with that? What was it? I don't know. But it doesn't seem, it could just as well been a test of, let's see how much can we mess up one town. Remember, a lot of bombs were dropped of different types and kinds just to test things, just to see how they worked. Nothing new about that. But yeah, I hear you. Let me ponder on that one for a little bit when I get there. Tomorrow, I am going to what's it called? The Blockhouse, the V2 rockets site out here, and then I'm going up to stay with Cook Rogers in Verdun for a couple of days, and we'll do a live Q&A on World War II on Monday, and then to Metz for a couple of days, and then one of you guys asked me about the secret line in the West Wall, so I'm working on a couple episodes from the West Wall, because, well, one of you guys asked me about it like a year ago. Yep. Yep. Well, agreeing with you is just, I mean, how can I not? I'm off. All right, Ian, you take care. I did not know that. There is, and there's a lot of there's a lot of out about Rammstein, and out there there's a lot of interest in tunnels out there that I'm hoping I can sneak through one of them that was used as a communication center for the Cold War, but built for the German Army's West headquarters in one of the larger bunkers. The Americans took over a bunch of stuff out there, and that's why it still exists. So we shall see. All right, let me just check the time, because, okay, we've got 10 more minutes. Then I have to go get breakfast before the restaurant closes, and curfew, and no, I don't think it's going to be that bad. Yeah, I went to La Coupole again today, and I went to maybe again today as well. I might fly over it tomorrow. It was just a little too windy out by the ocean with the drone today, because the craters of the destruction of those firing ports was amazing. I did put a price on peace. Yeah, what am I thinking? I mean, all the cool stuff we could do if we focused on that. But now we'll just keep paddling down the river of insanity. And it's funny, everyone I meet in Europe are really thoroughly fed up with what's going on and how everything's going up, prices and gasoline and green ideas and stuff that will. But when we destroy the Western civilized world, we'll be fine, right? Yes. You know what? If you hadn't told me, I would have. Well, I'm guessing my alarm clock on my phone would have figured out a time change on its own, maybe. Suhl in Germany. Oh, hang on. I need to be able to slow you down. Oh, really? Are they still in business, or? Yeah, are they still in business, or is there just something left? Yeah, Macron. He was. Oh, the problem is that you have all these lunatics running all these countries, just like during World War II. They were all a bunch of lunatics too. Now they wear, I guess, nicer suits today, but still lunatics just the same. Goebbels' property. Yes, out by the lake. I am planning on going there. This was just I'm just a 2 week trip or 20-day trip this time. So I didn't have time to. There's a couple of things I absolutely had to see, where Berchtesgaden was one of them. Let me put it this way. And we also went back to Kummersdorf, and there's a couple of other things. This was a trip that cost a phenomenal amount of money for relatively little performance on the outside. However, a lot of connections and leads on this trip that will be very much worth it. And sometimes I have to do a little bit of research, and I have to go talk to people, and I have to meet people. And this was that trip. There's a lot of stuff that came out on this trip that we are going to be hearing about over the next couple of months, and I kind of gave me a lot of time in cars driving thousands of kilometers back and forth about how to go about doing this and things that need to be done, including getting a damn book published. At least one of them. We got a couple sitting out there. So, and I figure we got to live now, because tomorrow we never know what life brings. And I think we all have to spend more time living in the now than living in the 3 days after tomorrow. I've done it all my life. I always had a business of my own, always planned ahead, always looked for the future, always try to be pragmatic and do things instead of just living. And I don't know what the world's going to look like in a couple of years or a couple of decades. But I think enjoy the moment with the people you have around you. And I think that's a lot more important now than it ever has been. Motorsport Europe. That sounds interesting. Oh, by the way, I went to visit Glock. Motorsport Europe. Oh, I finally got the engine case for the bike. I got a rental car. You know what? Because of all these green taxes and fees and crap here in Europe, gasoline is insanely expensive. And every time I show up at a rental car company, by the way, we're still back at war with Six. Just saying. I show up at Hertz and go like, oh, we gave you a free upgrade. Here's a ginormous SUV that goes like 8 liters to the kilometer or something. I mean, I just wanted something that was like cheap and like, no, this is what we have. Why can't I just get a damn diesel car? 2484. Nah, not that is actually a good one. 984. Yep. And you ask why Americans like to hoard guns and ammo. I think that is, I mean, everything with Patton, again, is speculation because we really don't know. It just seems like Patton was always there when it came to the secret. Like, can you see my lights going out here? To the secret sites of Kamlos. He was always the Third Army. It was always him that was nearby. So he certainly knew everything. And I don't think that's good for your health to know things. But honestly, with Patton, what kind of peacetime soldier would he have been? He would have hated it. What would his mission have been going home after a peace? I hate to put it that way, but he did go out on top of the game. Honestly. Anti-gravity could affect... I don't know enough science to know that. And I'm running out of light here. There's not much light in here, and mine are running out of battery. So we are going to call this in a minute. There's actually motorsport. I actually have a lead. What the? Yes, give me some. Damn it! Where is that? No, I need an intern to do this. Yes, I actually have a lead on a potential grave site and name of Kamala's in America. Um, that will be an interesting excavation request. Can I please dig up this body? Why? Because I think he's not who he says he is, but an old Nazi. That'll be interesting. And then I'll have to call Kamala's grandson and say, by the way, I need a blood sample because maybe I found you. Well, actually, that would probably be the easy part. Anyway, I will not so. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Actually, I will because my lights are both the lights are going out here. I wanted to sit downstairs. I said I wrote the silly place. I really do. I wanted a place where I could sit and I can do this and have some light and Wi-Fi and everything. And all they have is a very nice restaurant with a very nice view. It's raining outside, and there's by a gazillion people eating down there because it's Saturday. So, figure what the hell? We'll sit up here under the rafters. Hang on. Russia now instead of later. I'm assuming we're talking about Hitler. Oh, we're talking about patents, aren't we? Sorry. Yes, that's what he said himself. So I don't. I think that is exactly. That's okay. We'll take with the one I said before. For it, yes, I absolutely think that's what Patton he wanted to do. He wanted to go after the Russians while we still had or that we still could. And yes, the Germans do actually deserve to be free. I think the Germans really do need to, and the Austrians to a degree as well, need to be free of a guilt that is not any of the livings. But that is a very long, different story. Yeah, I'll go dig up Kamala. That will be interesting. Maybe we can find Hitler's body now that we're at it. Or I'm in it when yes. Well, MacArthur, remember, was a general, not a politician. Politicians does not seem to go to war in order to win, as we have seen over the past 20, 30 years. They go to war because, well, it makes everybody money and we get to test new things, he said bitterly. By the way, and then now another announcement that has nothing to do with this. I have transferred out of strategic communications, so I no longer have to carry a camera as well when I'm on duty. I have transferred to the mounted cavalry. So at some point in time, I'm going to lease a horse and go to work in riding boots doing search and rescue, which also means in late November, I'm going on a week's search and rescue course, which means I'm not going to be here. Anyway, all right, I'm going to go because I'm running out of light and I need to go get something to eat because, well, I only had 2 cucumbers today. Yes, I still have on my cucumber bend just for the hell of it. I don't know why. All right, you guys. On Monday, somehow, God willing, we'll do a live World War I chat with myself and Cook Rogers. I will try to keep my mouth shut because he really is an interesting storyteller, and it'll be awesome. I'll feed him some coffee, and for me tomorrow, Calais and Verdun and Metz, and then I'm going to work my way up. I have an old friend who is not well and is dying. I want to go see if I can just take a couple of days off and see. And then I'll be back in LA. I don't know if I can actually manage to knock out an episode for next Friday because the Wi-Fi wherever I've been, I couldn't upload small files on these hotel Wi-Fis. So, but remember, Lost Battlefield is now turning into a nonprofit, and hopefully that'll give us some an edge and some opportunities and some ways of looking for grants and things. And I'm counting on all of you to help me write that because I cannot do that as well. Yeah, I can. No, I'm counting on you to start writing grants. Anyway, I'll see you on Monday. I'll let you know on Sunday. Crap, that's tomorrow. All right, I'll let you know like Monday evening or Sunday when how and I are doing this with Cook Rogers. And oh heck, I'll see you all then. And send me an email if you have anything. I haven't, as usual, checked my emails, but see, I'll just be a horrible date because I'll forget to write back or call. Anyway, I will see you all soon. I will check Harry's book too, of course. And I will see you all on Monday, hopefully. And bon appétit. Au revoir.